Hey everyone! It occurred to me that the Steam Summer Sale is happening right now, and I wanted to make a video on some games that I think everyone should give a try. While this channel is primarily an Elder Scrolls channel, I do play lots of other stuff, and Elder Scrolls is not the only series that I enjoy or want to be fully defined by. As fantasy genre fans on this channel, I've got a group of games that I think you would all enjoy, that are outside of the Elder Scrolls series, and I sincerely hope you give some of them a try. Starting out, we have Massive Chalice. Massive Chalice, or Big Cup as I like to refer to it, is one of the most interesting games I've ever played. It's a turn-based, isometric-style strategy game where you play as the immortal ruler of a realm that is under the attack of a corrupting force known as the Cadence. The only thing that can repel the Cadence is the Massive Chalice, a magical device that exists at the center of the realm. It is your job, as the near-immortal ruler of the realm, to stave off the attacks of the Cadence by commanding your Chalice-attuned heroes in battle until the Chalice can charge up its power enough to blast the foul creatures back. Throughout the game, as the ruler of the lands, you can marry off bloodlines to specific keeps, deal with in-game events that crop up throughout your lands, research projects to ensure your survival, and erect buildings throughout the lands with specific functions. But beware of where your buildings end up. In your tireless work to stave off the Cadence, you may lose provinces to the corruption throughout time. If you can lead your people to victory after a 300-year attrition, you win the game. All of the Cadence creatures are really interesting to fight off as well. Lapses can steal your XP if they land a hit, bulwarks will lock up their armor when hit, making high damage values extremely important when engaging with them. Wrinklers add 5 years of age onto any hero that they hit with a melee attack, which can result in deaths from old age on the battlefield. And there's so on and so forth with a bunch of the other creatures. It's a very cool game with a large focus on strategy, so if that sounds like something intriguing to you, I would highly recommend it. The Forgotten City is up next, and it's a game that actually started off as a mod for Skyrim years and years ago, and the developers decided to make it into its own game. Even if you've played the mod, I highly recommend you give the game a go. It improves drastically on the themes presented in the original mod by taking the game and removing it from the Elder Scrolls universe into a world very similar to our own. I don't want to spoil too much, as ultimately the Forgotten City is a mystery game and the developers themselves have asked people to stay quiet about the twist, but I will say that in your search throughout the Forgotten City, you will be taken on an extremely interesting journey through the fields of religion, philosophy, morality, politics, and general human history in a way that I've never seen a game tackle before. The game primarily takes place within the city, and the main focus of the game is getting familiar with the people and the events of the city, and learning more about the various mysteries within. If that sounds interesting to you, please check it out. Chants of Sennaar is up next, and it's a puzzle game that I actually made a video about a while back because I was so inspired by it once I finished playing it. In simple terms, the Chants of Sennaar takes heavy inspiration from the Tower of Babel story. You awaken at the base of a tower, with no way to speak the language on the bottom level. Slowly, you're given opportunities to discover the meaning of the language through context clues and symbols posted throughout the communities. You learn the local religion and cultural practices of these people, and then you're able to ascend up to a higher level where you find a different culture with different cultural and religious practices as well. Throughout your climb of the tower, you may, or may not, be able to bridge the gap between these communities through diligently understanding the languages and providing connections for these various groups. When I was actually playing this game myself, I had a physical piece of paper and a pen in front of me, and I was writing down these symbols, trying to figure out what they meant. It was a very, very fun and immersive experience for me. If you're interested in etymology, religion, language, and sociology, definitely give Chants of Sennaar a try. Okay, now Pentiment is a game that genuinely made me feel a certain way after I played it, and it was a really emotional experience throughout. Pentiment takes you back to the medieval era, where you play as an educated man named Andreas, who lives in an interesting position. He works as an artist in the local abbey, alongside many of the various friars, nuns, and the abbot. However, he also lives down in the local village with a peasant family and is part of that community. And as Andreas, you get to witness the class struggles and divisions that grow between the citizens and the clergy as the game and timeline goes on, and you're tasked with solving a case that seems to have no good conclusions for either side. I saw someone refer to Pentiment as medieval Disco Elysium, which is funny because that game is later on in the list, but I think that's a really fun way of describing this game to people. If you're interested in real-world history, religious studies, philosophical discussions, medieval Europe, and games that deal with depression and the actions of your past, Pentiment is for you. I genuinely can't sing the praises of this game enough, though. You really just have to try it. Hand of Fate is a very bizarre game that I first played a handful of years ago. It's a roguelike game where you're engaged in a match against a mysterious dealer. The deck of cards you play with are randomly shuffled throughout the board by the dealer at the beginning of each match, alongside the dealer's own cards. The cards are then placed on the board, and it's your job to navigate through the maze of cards to collect items, face social encounters, and defeat enemies as you find your way to the final boss of each level. During enemy battles, you play as your minifigure, and you actually have to defeat the enemies that appear on the cards and the final boss of each level, so the whole game is not just as simple as pointing and clicking through the maze. I have yet to play the second game in the series, but I will say that I really enjoyed the first one, and I think that it's a really cool, unique game, and I would highly recommend it to everyone out there. Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 are both games that are very near and dear to my heart, as they were the first fantasy series that really taught me about the depth and seriousness that can be conveyed through a fantasy worldview. See, Skyrim and Oblivion and Morrowind, well, maybe not Morrowind so much, but Skyrim and Oblivion definitely, don't have really heavy themes throughout. It's mostly kill Mehrunes Dagon, kill Mankar Camoran in Oblivion, and then in Skyrim it's defeat the dragon. There's not really anything deep going on in those games. Pillars, on the other hand, deals with the topics of identity, loyalty, and scientific advancements in the first game, and then Pillars 2 deals a lot with purpose, faith, community, and colonialism as topics. Both games, though, have a heavy focus on philosophy, morality, and theism, as the gods are the most important part of the Pillars universe, bar none. These games are real-time with pausing, they're isometric, group-based fantasy games, and I think both of the games genuinely have a lot to say. I'll be honest though, the gameplay of the Pillars universe is not really my favorite. I'm much better personally at turn-based games, as real-time with pausing can be difficult to get into at first. However, I do genuinely think the universe itself is worth it, and you can also just turn the game to an easier difficulty if you ever need to, just to play the story, because I genuinely really do think that it's worth it. I don't want to spoil anything for these games since their storylines are really great, but I highly recommend them. They're games that take their topics and themes very seriously, which again is something I've always longed for more in the Elder Scrolls. Okay, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is the most recent of the games on this list, and I'm happy to be able to recommend it to everybody watching. If you're an Indiana Jones fan, this game is going to give you your rush of adventure and fun in a way that makes it feel like a more authentic induction into the series than Crystal Skull or Dial of Destiny, personally speaking. This game takes everything that made Indiana Jones a beloved series and packages it all in the right way, so even if you're not already an Indy fan, you'll still get the full experience and feel for the movies if you just play the game. It has, I believe, 7 unique zones, if I counted correctly, which are each jam-packed with puzzles to solve, items to collect, and Nazis to shoot, alongside just following the storylines of where the game will take you. The first-person camera view really puts you into the perspective of Indy as well, and it makes it all the more fun to live out the action-adventure genre from, quite literally, in his shoes. Remember, if adventure has a name, it must be Indiana Jones. Seriously though, I highly recommend this game. It is so much fun to play around in, and, I think in the year 2025, we could all use to shoot a Nazi in the head every once in a while. Okay, Disco Elysium is up next, and I honestly can't tell you how much fun I had with this game on my first playthrough. It is just such a wonderful experience. Disco Elysium takes place in a somewhat post-apocalyptic-ish world where you play as a detective so drunk out of his own mind that he literally forgets everything about himself and the world he lives in while he's trying to solve a murder case. You get placed with a straight-laced detective from a nearby precinct at the beginning of the game, and through his help, you piece together not only the murder, but also your broken worldview. Disco Elysium allows the player to reconstruct themselves from the roots up, basically, so your character can develop all sorts of different worldviews and philosophies, economic policies, basically anywhere from communism to fascism, and the game generally makes fun of all worldviews. You can even be like a bum in some of the playthroughs if you choose to. And in the midst of the murder investigation, there is an ongoing class struggle that's been instigated somewhat by the union workers at the docks, which can be really funny depending on which moral beliefs the detective carries out at that point. And I'm purposefully not saying his name, by the way, since I want you to decide what the detective's name should be when you boot up the game. And despite being a hilarious game, it also tackles really thought-provoking and sometimes just straight-up sad facts of life. So if you're looking for something really funny, well-written, with lots of depth and genuine lore and character building, which tackles themes of depression, politics, and of course, the hardcore, then please pick up a copy of Disco Elysium today. But yeah, that's my video for the 10 games that I think you should play before Elder Scrolls 6. Obviously, there's some bigger titles that I could have put on here. I was thinking about talking about Elden Ring or Baldur's Gate 3 or Dishonored, for example, but I think these games really are something that have smaller communities, and I just genuinely wanted to shout out and tell people about, because I'm pretty sure every single game on the list that I just said is on sale on Steam right now. So seriously, go check it out. Do not live your entire life in Bethesda Game Studios' shadow. You can play games outside of their studio. It is 100% fine, and a lot of them are honestly a lot better than things that they make. So special thank you to my channel members, all of whom I greatly appreciate, for deciding to donate a small portion of their income to support what I do on this channel. Again, I've been Dareloth, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out.